everyone. Welcome to our virtual painting class. So the first thing we want to do always when we paint on canvas, and I know some of us might be using watercolor paper. I wouldn't do this if you're not using a canvas, but you want to get a big thing of water, just like a cup of water, and a bigger brush, and just put like a nice thin coat of water on your canvas. Helps the paint stick a little better, makes it more malleable and easy to kind of move around.
Hey, Shriya, can I also say happy summer solstice to those who observe that as well?
Yeah.
All right. It's a party week.
It's a party week, that's right. I think we've earned a party week after all the things we've seen. So you want to make sure your canvas isn't dripping. Just get like a nice thin coat of that water on there. You don't want your canvas crying or sweating. Just like a nice thin coat there. A lot of this painting is going to be blending. So what we're going to do is kind of move down the canvas with our color, and then we'll go through. We want to leave a little bit of white space here, and we can kind of work on that later. But to start, we're going to get that rainbow in the background. Okay, so to do that, once we've got our water, do we want, it's hard to gauge how fast we're going. I'll move on to the first step and I'll try to go kind of slow, but if I'm going too fast, let me know. Go ahead and just put it in the chat, or you can unmute and just let me know. Does that work? Yes? Perfect. That's all I need. So first thing I'm going to do is take my big brush here and I'm going to put it in the red paint. I'm going to get a good amount of paint on there. And what I want to do is that first top inch of the canvas, I want to cover in the red paint. As I do this, I'm going to go ahead and get the edges as well. That is called a gallery wrap. That way, when you're done with your painting, you can take down any paintings that you have at home, or family pictures, medals, and put up your new most valuable item that you own, which is going to be this painting. How exciting. So I've got that red on there. Do you guys remember how colors are made? This is like a big throwback, like kindergarten, primary colors. So since we're doing a rainbow, it's kind of nice for this painting. We're going to put that red on there. And then what we're going to do next is I'm just going to take my brush with the red on it and I'm going to put some yellow on there. And just underneath where I have my red, I'm going to kind of mix that yellow. And the paint should be wet. You want to put a good amount of paint on there, and it should start mixing and create a nice shade of orange. And if you're not seeing that orange come in, go ahead and take a little bit more red and just mix that right in there. And I'm going to go back. I think my red's a little thin, so I'm just going to go back over the middle. And I like going in little X's. So just making small X's with my paintbrush. So it blends a little bit. And if it gets too red, just go back over it with a little more yellow. If it gets too yellow, go ahead and add some of that red on there, and that should give you a nice shade of orange. So we kind of have to keep moving along because we want the paint to stay wet. Acrylic paint dries really quickly. So once you've got that orange on there, the next step is to kind of clean off your brush. So I'm going to take my brush and just rub it around in that jar of water. And if you have like a paper towel or a napkin or something, you can kind of dry it off. And then you want to go back over and add that yellow. So I'm just taking my brush and my paint and then just cross hatching, making those little X's with the yellow paint. And since the paint's wet, you should kind of see the colors blending together. But if you don't, then you want to go back and try to mix them. So you can kind of go over where those two colors meet and just make those little X's and pull that paint down and push it up. Should create more of a blended sunrise type look rather than just the blocked colors.
Hey, are we about a third of the way down the canvas by now?
We're about a little more than a third. I would say almost half.
Oops, okay.
Okay, and if you're not there, it's really, really easy to fix. So all you got to do is just go back to the top and pull that red down. So go ahead and put more red paint on and put it a little bit further down. And then just go ahead and do the exact same thing we just did. So go ahead and add a little more yellow, pull that paint down. Does that make sense? Nothing is going to make me assume yes. Okay. I think that's a little bright. There we go. All right, so just kind of moving along. What's next? Red, orange, yellow, green. So to get the green, we want to put a little bit of blue. These darker colors can kind of take over really quickly.
Here, where's your video?
So what I'm going to do is pull the yellow down a little bit further. Probably this is about halfway down the canvas now with the yellow. And I'm just going to dip the tip of my brush in the blue and kind of start mixing that right at the bottom of where I put that yellow. And if it looks too blue, you can go ahead and add some yellow. If it's too yellow, you would add some of the blue, but you shouldn't need a lot of blue for this step. So try to use it kind of sparingly, otherwise it'll just take over. Like I only put that little bit and I'm going back over it with like a little more yellow.
Hi,
Yeah.
is there any way you could go a little bit slower? We're a little bit of beginners here, so we're kind
yeah,
of trying to stick with the colors.
Of course, no problem. Do you want me to go over any steps again?
Yes, please.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, let me walk you through it one more time. So
Okay, I'm sorry. There's like I don't know if you can see all of us. There's like 5 of us, 6 of us here in our living room.
oh, I
thank
see you guys. Hi.
Okay. Thank you so much. We really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
no problem. So
So
do you want me to-
I think we're barely on the red. So after the red, what comes next?
So go ahead. Okay, I'll go over it one more time. Basically,
Thank
what you want to do, yeah, of course. So you've got your brush.
Little girl.
You want to get a good amount of red paint on there. And kind of just go in little X's with your brush and kind of go on over the top. Okay? And cover it. And make sure, I would tell you to use a good amount of paint because you want it to stay wet as you kind of move down the canvas. Okay? Once you've got the red on there, the next thing you want to do, you don't have to clean your brush at all. You just take a little bit of yellow paint and work right underneath it and mix those colors. And I'll give you a minute to do that. And now's a good time if you had done these steps to kind of go back and you can kind of blend those colors in together and make sure that they're not kind of splotchy or separated. So you can take some time and just add a little more of specific colors here and there. Try to make it look a little more blended. Once you're able to get through that orange, you're going to do the exact same thing. You're just, for the yellow, you just want to clean off your brush and do the exact same thing. You're going to go down the line with the yellow paint, right underneath that orange. Now, once you're kind of moving along for that yellow, for the green, you want to use a very, very little bit of blue. So I would even just start by putting another layer of the yellow paint and then going through with just a dab of that blue on your brush, the smallest bit. And it'll create like a nice hue of green. If you want your green to be darker, then you can go ahead and add a little bit more of the blue. But to have a nice like lighter green, you want to use like a very small amount. And we're going to do pretty much the same thing we kind of did up top. Once you're done with that green, you're going to move down and just take a little more blue on your brush and create that layer of blue. And once we're done with this step, we'll have a couple minutes break too. So if you're going slower, it's not a problem at all.
Is that blue?
It is, yeah. And you would do the same thing with the blue that you did with the yellow, where you put the yellow in right after. Once you've got your green, you can just go in and kind of mix that blue. Same way. There's not really new techniques in this section. You just kind of block it off and keep adding those layers of color.
And how do you get the orange?
You want to mix, you've got your red, and then you go back over it with a little bit of yellow on your brush and just create that next layer by mixing the red you already have on top with the orange you've got underneath. A lot of the colors we're mixing are going to be mixed directly on our canvas because we want it to look kind of blended. Normally, if we want things to have more of those defined lines, we would mix the paint on here and then go in and kind of draw it in.
So you
Does that make sense? And once you've got that blue laid out, and again, if you're not at the blue yet, don't worry. Once we're done with this step, we're gonna have to wait for it to dry, and I'll give you guys 10 or 15 minutes to kind of be able to finish up and catch up. But for those of us that are at this point, once you've got your blue on there, we're just gonna make purple last. So for the purple, what I like to do is just go through and add like a little bit of blue and then go over it with the red. The dark colors, again, are very, they kind of take over. So adding a little bit of them and then going over with the lighter colors makes a better shade. So you can just go through, kind of mix it right on the canvas there. And remember, as you kind of paint, to go and paint the sides of your canvases as well. So if you haven't done that yet, now is a good time to kind of go back and do that. All right, once you've got that purple on there, you should have that rainbow pride flag, which is pretty cool. So the next thing we're gonna do requires the canvas to be dry. So I'm gonna wait about 10 minutes and we'll let this dry. And if you have any questions for me in the meantime, as you're working through it, let me know. I'm just drinking my beer. I'm happy to take questions.
Purple.
How do we make purple again?
A pretty
Purple, so you wanna take a little bit of the blue paint
Okay.
and then go ahead and put a lot more of the red paint on there. You wanna have more red than blue because the blue can get kind of dark.
What am I gonna call green? Blue and yellow, right? Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, how do you get the green?
The green, you just want to take so you have the yellow. I would extend that yellow down a little bit and then just add a touch of the blue. And same thing, you want to go in those little X-shaped brush strokes. Here, let me,
Okay.
and just kind of pull that color down and then in those X's, mix those colors and bring the green down. For this part, this is the part where I asked you guys to get kind of creative. I had to find some circles. So I'm using this like little palette. Again, it's the size of a salad plate. So if you have a salad plate, that's a good use. And then I've got this guy, which is a like an incense holder, but you can also use, I was using like a sour cream container lid if you have sour cream, or like a yogurt lid, just something round, and the paint will wash off anything you use, unless it's, you know, paper or something. So what we want to do is start getting our C on there, and having a reference is much easier than just trying to freeball it. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a small brush, like a little detail brush, you can see that. And I'm going to use black. I'm just going to get my brush wet, get a little bit of black paint on there. Okay, and I'm going to figure out, so you want your flag or your C to be towards the left of the canvas. And I want to remind everyone that a C does not go all the way around. This happens all the time when I teach in the studio. I see people just go all the way around 360 and then they're like, Shriya, what do I do? And I sit there and I laugh at them because I told them not to do that, but I help them. So if you do that, I will help you. But basically what you want to do is kind of create that C. Okay, so again, I just found something round. I'm going to stick it on the left, kind of towards the center of the canvas. And I'm going to start kind of over here and finish up kind of over here. So I've marked my lines on my plate, which I don't know if you can see. Let me bring it closer. I've got like a line up here and then a line kind of over here to create that C. It's a little bright, and I want the opening to be over here so I can put my cityscape on that side, okay? So once you've got your circle and you've got your lines kind of figured out, you just want to wrap around. And it's okay if your paintbrush isn't, you know, covered in paint. You just want it to be dark enough that you can see it, and then we'll go back over with more paint and kind of highlight it. But having a stencil works. If you don't have a stencil, what I would recommend is grabbing just like a pencil or like a pen and creating that line. But now you should have, a little bit, very faint. You should have that C shape. Okay, and I'll give you a minute to do that. And we want to do the big one first. I know if you look at the C, you have the little one and the big one. Make sure to do the big one first, because once you put that little one in there, you can't really see where it's at. And again, this is our original. Better. You can see that C there. And it depends on the size of your canvas as well. I'm sure we're all using different sizes. So if you're using a smaller canvas, you might want to use, smaller circles, and a bigger canvas, bigger circles. Think about that. And once you've got your outer C there, you can move on to that next C. And I'm using my little incense burner, and I'm just going to find the center. And this one you can go all the way around. And kind of place that right in the middle. Go all the way around that guy. You should have your, almost like a target, just not fully finished. And then we'll create, a couple lines here to make that C. And while I wait, I'm just going to go back and make that black a little bit darker. And just a little tip, if at any point your brush feels dry or you feel like you don't want to use a ton of paint and you want to make it a little lighter, just add some water. So for example, when I'm going to go around, I added a little bit of water to the black just so it'll glide on the canvas a little easier rather than kind of rubbing up against it. And once you've got your two circles, you can go in and just connect the two. You just want to make a line that goes from that inner circle to that outer circle. Give yourself that C. Do we have any questions about that? All right, so once we have our C kind of on there, what I like to do for some of those darker colors, because we're going to have red and yellow, the red and yellow sometimes don't show through if you've got all these colors behind it. So I like to go through and just put a little bit of white paint in my circles. And that way I can go back over it with the red paint and it'll be a lot brighter. So just kind of putting that layer of white so the color will show through. All right, so I just have it white. I'll give you guys a couple minutes to kind of catch up. Did we have any questions at this point? Awesome. I'm either doing a really good job or you guys are really shy.
This is Blake.
We got a funny story over here.
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's hear it.
So we have
First
our
timer.
paint palettes. A couple of us have some plates.
Uh-huh.
However, we had some chips and dips.
No,
earlier.
so we use the top for a circle.
Right. We use
Okay, yeah, the lid.
So there was a bowl of
Sour
sour cream, like an onion dip, was
Yeah.
white. One of us thought it was paint. And
Oh
sour cream on
no,
their painting.
not the dip.
cream.
Not the dip.
Not the painting.
You can still eat it. It won't kill you.
Ooh.
But I'll leave that up to you. I'm not going to tell you to eat it. I'm just gonna let you know that it won't kill you. No, it happens to the best of us. I've dipped my brush in my wine before at the studio, and I mean, I'm not gonna waste it. So, happens to the best of us. Okay, so I know we're still kind of working on the white. As we move along, the next thing we're going to want to do is that skyline. I'm not sure if that's right. There we go. It's kind of better. So we're going to kind of create that black line just coming out of our sea here. And at the top, we're going to put our skyline. And at the bottom, we're going to put those like drippies and like black paint to make it look a little more, I think it's got a glare, like a little bit more abstract there. So what I would do for that is I like to put a little bit of water on my brush before I go. Like I said, it helps the paint kind of glide on there. It just makes it be a little bit smoother. So I'm going to take my smaller brush, just mix it in my black paint. And we'll come back to our sea and fill in the colors once that white paint is dry. So it doesn't mix and we don't get like a pink and a light yellow. We want those colors to be bright. So what we're going to do, our cityscape kind of starts where our sea, right over here, kind of where that they meet, right over here. So what I'm going to go and just do like a nice, it doesn't have to be perfectly straight. So try really hard to fight that urge and just bring this line, black line, all the way to the edge of your canvas. So that nice black line there, that division. And what we'll do is build our city going up, and we'll have a little bit of that nice abstract brushstroke look underneath to create our flag. And we'll do that in like let's do like 2 minutes. Give you guys a couple minutes here to catch up.
You said a minute ago that it doesn't have to be perfectly straight.
No.
Which is it's the pride flag, so that's perfect.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Are we allowed to celebrate Pride? Are we having celebrations in Denver? Yes? I'm assuming so.
They're all online. They're all virtual.
Virtual, okay.
If anyone's interested, you go to Denver Pride's Facebook page, and like on the events tab, they have stuff like every hour for several days. Mostly this week.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And other performers. Oh, you don't. Yeah, I do.
Nice. Very, very cool. So I think it looks like we're kind of ready to start working on our cityscape here. So I have a little trick for us. Nobody really knows, well, I guess at our studio, we don't have the Denver Skyline memorized per se, but we do know that there's a couple iconic buildings that we need to have for it to look like Denver. And the first one's going to be that building that's got kind of like let me try to show you. And I'm not sure if you have the picture pulled up. We've got our, right here, this building right over here that, oh my gosh, why does it do that? It's got like a half curve up, and then the rest of the buildings we're going to kind of wing from there. So to start off where we've got our line, what I'm going to do is kind of go a little bit further up on where my line is and move out, and I'm going to start by building just a little rectangle. My first building on there. Again, it helps to put a little bit of water on your brush for this part so you feel like your paintbrush is kind of gliding on there. And I'm going to make that about as tall as my circle and my C. Make it a little taller. Okay, and as I move along, the next one I'm going to do is going to be like a little bit shorter. And then we're going to go a little bit taller again, up to the orange. Let me give you a minute to kind of get to this point. You've got your little rectangles. So at this point, I've got my like medium, my short, and then a guy that's a little bit taller. And I'm just gonna make this one a little bit more L-shaped, just like that. So that's gonna be my first set.
Hey, Shriya, I lied. I'm bothering you again.
No problem.
I just wondered, could you straighten the easel, the painting just a little bit?
A little bit like this, or
It's leaning, oh, there you go, much better. Thank you.
better? Yeah. Okay, so let's kind of move on to our next couple buildings here. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna put a little bit of water on my brush, get some black paint. And the next one I wanna do is going to be similar to this guy, this step guy, but I'll have it right next to it with like a little bit of a gap. It's almost like a mirror image, so. Just like that. Creating my step.
You play with her, but you can't play with these.
Say that again?
Yeah, look. You glue it on there? Get the glue.
I can't feel it.
I think someone's having a party. All right. So once we've got that one, we're gonna want one more, kind of like a short building. Again, just a little gap between those two. And my next building is a little bit different. So for this one, I'm gonna have a gap here and I'm gonna pull it up tall. And I want it to curve. It's a softer curve, it's not like a rectangle. I'm just gonna have a line go down. And then create another curve and have it meet the ground there. Extra credit to anyone who knows what that building is called. Anyone? The one that looks like that?
Cash register building. I used to work in that building, but it's
Oh,
actually
really?
It's actually the Wells Fargo building.
Yeah.
But I call it the cash register.
Cash register. Yeah, that's what everybody calls it, that cash register building. But
Well, it's the Wells Fargo building.
yeah, I guess
They
that
call
works.
it the lunchbox too.
Lunch. I've heard that too, and it looks more like a lunchbox to me than a cash register.
It's the old school cash registers back in the 50s maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's probably why I don't know about it.
It reminds me of one of those trash cans at the zoo, you know, where the flaps and the straight part, and then you push your hand in and all these bees are in there.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. So we've got our cash register trash can building. The next one, maybe I'll give you a minute for that one. That one's like a different shape. So I'll give you a minute to kind of catch up on that.
Shriya, I have to hand it to you. You're the first one of the Zoom artists that has painted upside down. We're going to have to give you an award for that.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. I hope it's not confusing for anybody to see that. But
Great.
Actually, I have the skyline behind me.
all right, and as we kind of move along, the next couple buildings are all rectangles. They don't have any of those interesting shapes on them. So I'll walk you through those guys really quick too. I think we've gotten pretty good at those. We want to have like a little bit of a shorter building next to this guy, like a little square. And then the last one is going to be 3-tiered. So having like one little step there, going up, and then kind of coming down. That should be our buildings there. And then you just kind of want to go through and paint them in, and we'll go in and add the little windows with white. So once you're at that point where you've got all your buildings kind of lined up, you can just go in with the black paint, similar to what we did with the white where we just kind of colored them in. You just want to add that black paint and make them a solid color. And we'll move on to that bottom part after that. I'll give us another minute or two. It looks like some of us are still painting.
We should tell those of you who have never been to our studio before that in the studio, we play party music in between instructions. And we go around and take your drink orders. So hope you'll come in and visit us after July 1st. It's a party every night.
We're listening to smooth instrumental jazz in our background.
If you come in on Saturday mornings, we like to play some like slow classical. We'll do watercolor classes with some nice light music if you're not trying to get down at your painting class. That's always a fun one. Those Saturday morning classes are really nice. They're smaller, so you can kind of request more help. You get more one-on-one time with us. So once we open back up, that's what I would recommend.
They're all going to be small now.
Okay, perfect. Then yeah, a lot of one-on-one time with the instructors, which is really, really helpful, especially if you have something really specific you're trying to make. You don't always have to do the painting we're doing when you come in. You can kind of pick what you want to do, and we're happy to help with it.
Are you guys going to continue on with the Zoom classes? Even after you open up?
Yes, we are still going to be doing Zoom after we open up. Just we'll probably split it, so half and half.
Yeah, I had some other family members that attended some of the Zoom classes that you guys held so far out of state, and they really enjoyed it.
Oh, that's so good to hear. No, now's a great time because they're free all of June. If you know anyone, you know, who wants to just take a break and paint, or someone with kids especially, now's a great time to just get some free painting lessons in.
Yeah, they
It's
never
really nice.
they were
Go ahead.
excited about it.
Yeah, it's awesome. And it's really nice right now too, because art can be kind of difficult. Like art classes can be more expensive for people. And so while things are free, now is a great time to take advantage of it, you know, and come in and just learn to paint. And everybody's been stuck at home, so you get a little bit of community. I guess things are starting to open up, but like a really great thing that the studio is doing is having these free classes. I think we're kind of ready to move along. So we've got a couple steps left. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to color in our C. We're going to have to create that black drippy paint, and then we'll put the windows. The windows we'll do last since that's still, the black paint is still wet. But next, what I want to do is create some of that abstract paint at the bottom. So I'm going to take my small brush. I have this little detail brush. And same thing, I'm going to mix it in the water with the black paint. And it's very, very abstract. So what you want to do, and this is harder, I think, when we're taught that we have to make straight lines all the time. So just kind of follow along with me here. What I'm going to do is color in the rest of my C down here. And just kind of go along and just messily kind of rub my brush along, almost like you're coloring with a, or painting with a crayon or something, where you just kind of rub your brush along your canvas, giving it a little more dimension. You want it to be uneven. Fight that urge to make things evenly. Nothing, it's more attractive to the eye if you've got some of those uneven lines and things like that. You look at paintings for much longer when lines aren't all straight and even. You can just go through and create a little bit of an uneven ledge underneath. And once you've got that layer of paint, well, let me let you do that. I'm not running. So just creating this uneven bottom section to start. And once you've got that, like, you know, half inch or inch of that jagged ledge, what you want to do is create some lines that come down. So you should have paint on there. I went and got a little bit more paint on my brush. And I'm just gonna kind of make these lines, some longer, some shorter, just kind of flicking your wrist. It's really all in the wrist, and you're just kind of going up and down with some lines longer than others, and pulling that black paint. If you feel like it gets kind of faded, or if you don't really like that gray that sometimes comes out of it, you can add more paint. Oops. I'll have this little section where it doesn't really come down at all. And it gives that drippy type of, like the dripping paint type of illusion, as you can see. So you can just run through, and you don't want to think too much about this step. You really just want to kind of flick and create those lines. Because the more, I guess the more thoughtless it looks, the better. You don't want to have controlled lines or anything like that. So you can run through and just pull that. And I went kind of fast there, so let me know if you want me to do that again.
Can you do that again, please?
Yeah, of course. So again, just getting a little bit of water on my brush, getting in that black paint, and starting over at the edge, and I'm just going to make, with my wrist, like slowly, you can just pull and make lines, randomly different lengths as you move down. Just pulling the paint up, down. Helps to paint upside down for this part. And just kind of going through, and you can go back over if there's sections where you want the paint to drip a little bit longer or shorter, and just having it kind of uneven. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay, and if we're moving along, go ahead and take your time on that step. I'm just going to let you know what the next step is, and I think this one's pretty straightforward. We're going to go ahead and color in or paint in our Colorado Sea. And now that it's white, it should be dry. If it's not dry, I would give it another minute. But I'm just going to take my brush, and for the outer part, I'm going to put in red. So just kind of mixing the red paint in, and getting that beautiful red on the outside, and then that Colorado gold, the yellow on the inside. So when you finish up, that's going to be your next step. Oh, and another little tip too, as you get to your C and you start painting it, the yellow in the middle isn't really like a raw yellow. It is more of like a mustard yellow. And so what I like to do is mix a really, really small amount of my red into my yellow, so it creates more of that mustard yellow orange color, to mimic the gold of Colorado Sea. So if you'd rather just use the yellow, that's totally fine too. But what I'm gonna do is mix just like a dot of the red into my yellow, and I can do that straight on my palette here, and then go in and put that yellow in. And it's not a lot of red, it's just a little tiny dab of it. Did we have any questions at this point? Any more funny stories? Did someone dip it in the salsa this time? Okay, let's go ahead and move on to our final step. So we should have something along the lines of this. All we have left to do is to add some lights to our skyscape, our little city here. So again, I'm going to take that small brush, that detail brush, you can see that, and put a little bit of water on my brush and get in that white paint. And there's really no science to this. You're just going to go ahead and add little dots to the buildings to give the illusion of, you know, windows. So I'll kind of go up here and just 1, 2, 3. And I would do it really sporadically. I wouldn't worry too much about having the exact amount of windows that you'd expect. So I'll come down here and add a couple more dots there. And just move along. On my shorter building here, I can have 5 or so. I know the eye, when you look at paintings, we're really drawn to uneven numbers. So having an uneven amount of lights will be really kind of interesting to look at for your viewers. Creating some of those little windows.
I'm sorry, is that white paint?
That's right, yes, white paint.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. That's what I'm here for. And just dotting. You don't really have to create a shape with these. You'll notice that I just went through and kind of put dots in. I didn't really rub my brush along the canvas. When you look at a painting from further away and you see the dark and the light, you don't really need shapes. You can just have those white dots and that'll create the illusion of windows. There we go. So go ahead and take your time on that, but I'll take this opportunity to thank you everyone for coming and painting with me today. Welcome to my home and coming in and painting with me. I never thought I'd be teaching a class from my bedroom like this, so it's very exciting for me. Again, we'll be opening our studio up on July 1st, so you know, take the opportunity while we've got these free classes. Go ahead and let your friends know, let your family know, out of state especially. That's really cool that you were able to share that experience with them, having them be out of state. So go ahead, and we would love that advertising for us, and we love the opportunity to teach people how to paint, especially in these times where it's nice to have a little bit of community and bring a little bit of art into your home. So thank you again, everyone, for doing that with me tonight. I am working for tips tonight. I mentioned that once. I do have my little Venmo code in the chat, but if you don't have Venmo, I can kind of figure out what else to do there. So go ahead and just send me a message. But I have my